Hi, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're going to take a look at the Sanrenmu 6040. Why am I holding my fingers like this? Because it looks so delicate and dainty. It's actually a robust little beast. 2 inches of cutting machinery here. Just can go through stuff like nobody's business. For its size, this knife can surprise you. Come on down to the tabletop and take a good look at it with me. Let's start by doing some comparisons. The very first knife that I reviewed was another knife by Sanrenmu, and it's actually got a number that's fairly close to that one. If you remember the 7063, that was a small knife. We considered it a small knife. And it just looks big next to this thing, doesn't it? Or maybe a knife that we had earlier on. I still haven't got the one with the wooden scales. But you know this knife. It's famous amongst knife collectors, especially ones that do high-value knives, the EL01 by Anlan. That thing just looks like a beast next to this knife. You know, if you give them both the same starting point at this line right here. Wow. It's just a tiny thing. How about the Gonzo 717? That is one small knife that we've got to look at today. Okay, hopefully this camera will keep up with our focusing. I've seen pictures of some of these that have the label on them, the 6040. This one only has the Sanrenmu logo right next to my finger there in the center of the screen. And it says 681 beside it, and I don't know what that number refers to, unless it's the steel type, which it very likely is. I'm very unfamiliar with those steel types, those 3-digit number ones. I've contacted Sanrenmu, and when they get back to me, I will confirm if that's the steel type or not. Believe it or not, this edge is 2 inches long. I've got a tape here. It's 2 1/8 of an inch long. If you go right to the end of the knife, you're looking at 2 3/8 of steel. Exposed steel is 2 3/8. The handle of the knife is, 2 7/8. So when you close it, it's only 2 7/8 inches long. It's, like roughly half an inch wide. Very narrow, just over 1/4 of an inch this way. It's a nice, small, delicate knife, but it can do probably 80% of the tasks that you want a knife to do. If you live in an urban center, this knife will do almost everything that you need to get done. It'll easily open envelopes. It'll easily, you can break down a bit of cardboard with this, because you can get a good 3-finger grip on this. And I've been able to grip it nice and tight like that. And so it's got it on these 3 fingers and let it work. Because this little edge here on the little hollow grind is very sharp. And if you added a lanyard to it, where there's an adequate hole for a paracord 550 lanyard, you'd have that extra grip that you can grab with your pinky and the rest of your hand down here so that you won't lose this knife when you're using it. I don't know how or why they did this. I'm going to bring a little box here so I can put it down a little bit closer so that the camera doesn't have to zoom way down. But I want you to notice something. It's got a tiny little choil right there. And then it's got the main choil where the thumb stud is. And then, the big swoop on the rest of it. Like, who's got the tiny fingers to fit that? It's as if this thing, if it got blown up into full size like this, that it would then be a choil big enough for your finger, and I'm talking about this first one. But as it is now, it's just a tiny little thing for your hand to put your finger on there. You can put that finger on there. Ooh, that's delicate. So these first two choils just sort of work together for your one finger. And the little bit of jimping that's on the back of this knife is surprisingly functional. It gives you a nice, good grip to the knife, and you can do delicate little whittling with it. This would be a great knife for somebody with small hands. If you've got a smaller child who is older, old enough for a knife, their hand might be just the right size for this thing, and they'll be able to use it with relative ease. It's a very secure knife. It's not going to come unlocked. I like to give knives with a back lock to younger children because I can be that very confident that they're not going to close the knife on them accidentally. Once it's open, that back lock has got the blade, it's holding that blade, and it's not accidentally going to close when they're using the thing. Especially if those mid locks are a little bit worse for that, but this one's far enough back. While you're holding it, it's just wrong that you can't comfortably hold it with your thumb back here and use it. So when that child or tween is using the knife, they'll be secure with this knife. It's a good option. You can open it with one hand. It works just fine. You need two to close it because it's really hard to two or a substitute of a hand, something else to help you close it. But as I showed you, it's easy enough to open with one hand, of course, to use, and then when you go to close it, it's shut. This is the PP66 glass reinforced plastic. Tiny little clip, and it's surprisingly tight. And with the very light weight of this, once you've got it in your pocket, you're going to forget that it's there if you've got it clipped on your pocket. And you're going to forget that you've got a knife with you. And when you need it, it'll be right there. It will not fall out. There's not enough weight to overcome the little bit of friction that this clip has. If you are going to be keeping it, like if you're a lady and you're going to keep this in your purse, take that clip off so that it's even that much smaller, that much more, takes that much less space in your, this thing would fit in a clutch, and you wouldn't even really need a purse. I've been married for 27 years. That's why I know all these terms. I'm not a metro, I'm just a man who's had a wife for a while. So it's got some G10 in the back here, so that keeps it completely closed construction. I do hesitate with it just slightly. Oh, sorry, I was thinking about a different knife. I've got no reservations at all with this one. There's a pin back here, as well as the G10 for the backing. And then there's that lanyard hole. That hole is big enough if you if you use your paracord after having taken out the inside threads, the 7 white threads. I would think if you would take 3 of those threads out, if you're really careful, you can do that and leave the other 4. You sort of have to grab all of them on one end and 3 on the other end and pull it just a little bit, and then really take a good hold of the last 4, and you can work out, your choice of the number of threads that you want. And then it would be small enough, or just totally empty case of paracord, and you could make a nice little lanyard here. It takes a regular Torx head, although it's a very tiny one. I don't have my Torx kit here to tell you exactly what number that is. I'll put it. Actually, if anybody is actually really wanting to know what size Torx that is, just ask me and then I'll let you know. So it's a really nice little knife. The back lock is handy. Tiny knife. Very discreet. Size of your finger. My finger. I really like tiny knives. I'm going to start a playlist now that I've got 2 tiny knives that I've reviewed. And I'm going to be reviewing quite a bit more tiny knives as time goes. This thing's not even $6 at GearBest. Fast Tech doesn't have it. GearBest has it for $5.98, I think. The 440 BUC-PH. But if you just look at the 6040, the Sanrenmu 6040, you'll find this thing. The numbers that it gives in the specs on their sheet on the web page is a little bit generous. It's even smaller than the specs that they give there. I didn't take the weight yet, did I? 33 grams. 1.2 ounces. Is that lighter than a stick of lipstick? Ladies, let me know. Okay, so there we have the Sanrenmu 6040. Nice delicate knife. Not delicate in terms of how strong it is. I've used it for a while. It's fairly strong, but delicate in its size and shape and dimensions. But you could really hurt yourself with this thing, so be careful. Always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye now.